Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show coming at you on the road from parts unknown. I think we're going to be a little bit secretive right now, but where I am, but I'm not. I'm not at home, not in my normal studio, but I'm always joined with by Andrew Combo Salop to discuss the NBA. Combo, great to have you here. What's happening, my man?
Parts unknown. I feel like they used to say that in wrestling about, wrestlers keeping them mysterious.
From parts unknown, weight unknown.
Yeah,
The
right?
Grappler. You remember the Grappler? You're probably too young to remember the
Oh, that's
Grappler.
probably before my. I mean, I was watching older wrestling when I was younger, but not too. What was his full name? Just the Grappler?
The Grappler. I have no idea. And by the way, I'm not even sure I ever saw this. We used to say that in high school, and I had no idea who it was or what. But anyway, the Grappler. It's a good name. I have to think that if you were going to be a wrestler, grappling would be your best skill.
In real wrestling, for sure. I don't know about pro wrestling.
Right, right. That's true. Anyhow, well, let's talk some NBA. And by the way, if you're out there and you want to have, you know what, maybe we'll do something special a little bit. Maybe we'll take a couple more questions from the comments if they come in that are worthy. Otherwise, if you want to make sure that your questions answered, super chat's the way to go over on the YouTube side. And by the way, I always say that, but we are broadcasting to Twitter at the same time. This is technology growing at the same time. So
Oh, wow.
if you're on Twitter, you can watch and interact. Great, no problem. But if you want your question answered, the best way to do it is super chat on YouTube. But you know what? If I grab some things like Bernard is saying some nice things to us, thank you so much, Bernard. We'll do a little thing. How about this? Let's test this out here. Oh, okay. All I have to do is tap it on my iPad and it goes on the screen. Very nice. Good for you, StreamYard, for making that easy. Thank you, Bernard. Anybody else out there listening? Let us know that you're out there. But let's you know what? Let's do this one first because this is a good question. Iman asks, "What do the Knicks need to become a contender?" That's a really great question. So there's been interesting rumors out there. You've seen them, Combo, right? Have you seen the most interesting trade rumor so far? What is it?
Well, I mean, I think it fits with the Nova Knicks narrative. Mikal Bridges.
Oh, you heard that one?
Okay,
Yeah.
I know. You're getting to LeBron. I get it. But
Yeah. LeBron being traded. Oh, and E-Man. I was worried about that. I thought that I did that wrong. But nonetheless, thank you for the great question. LeBron being traded is probably completely nonsense and not even a thing to consider. But I started to wonder, well, what would a trade look like for that? And I came up with, why not Julius Randle, Evan Fournier for LeBron? Boom.
how
Maybe
does
a
that,
pick.
How does that help the Knicks for their future?
Well, okay.
Sorry, no. Sorry, wrong question. How does that help the Lakers for their future? Because that means they're looking into the future if they trade LeBron, right?
Right. I mean, the problem with LeBron is you're never going to get back what equal, value, right? But you want to get something back for him. And listen, it's nonsensical. It's not going to happen. So it's kind of just like a thought experiment, right?
Okay.
But in theory, like they already had Julius Randle, which is kind of funny.
True.
But you'd get back a guy who is still really young or pretty young. Yeah, he's not even 28 yet, I don't think. Although I can look that up. A guy who's a legit scorer inside, has shown the ability to shoot from the outside in a similar way to LeBron. He actually can facilitate, not like LeBron can, but he can make passes and set teammates up and stuff. He might have. Oh boy. Never. I don't even know if I want to get into that, but nonetheless, maybe you know what I'm going to think about. But I think it might be a win-win. They get a Fournier who is a Fournier. They get Evan Fournier who is an elite shooter who's just rotting on the bench pretty much, and they need more of that. So if it's going to be a problem where they're not going to win and it's a distraction and LeBron's being difficult, I don't know. Then why not replace him with an equally difficult player who can at least replace a lot of his production?
I mean, they need shooting because LeBron is there. I mean, if you trade LeBron, it's not even about fit anymore. It's just acquiring the best talent possible at that point, right? Like you're kind of looking into the future. You're not going to win this year.
Okay, let's talk about that. LeBron on the Knicks. Does that put them into? Is that? Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about Lakers, right? You're not going to win this year.
Well, we could shift to LeBron to the Knicks because, I mean, I think it does obviously raise their championship ceiling. It would be interesting how Brunson would play with the LeBron, but the Kyrie LeBron thing worked, the D-Wade LeBron thing worked, but I mean, it will take the basketball out of Brunson's hands as well.
It will a little bit.
Yeah,
it would, but we've seen LeBron now be deferential and let the point guard do his thing. At least cross half court, right? He'll kind of throw it to him and kind of just waltz up the court or walk up the court and kind of be disconnected to the offensive play until maybe the last, 10 seconds of the possession, where then they have to go to him and he has to do something. So, but there has been some interesting, LeBron has been functioning a little bit more in the context of an offense the last couple of years, a little bit. So there might be a way to figure that out. And obviously what is killing the Knicks right now is what the Lakers laid out, which is, and it's kind of funny that during that whole 10-game or 9-game winning streak, the other teams didn't really do this, but they basically just blasted it, Brunson, got it out of his hands, and none of the other Knicks could do much with the ball in space.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely an issue, especially when Brunson's not playing. I mean, OG's out, OG's out, Randle's been out, so against the Lakers, they were just at a talent deficit, right? Like whatever you think about D-Russ, fine. I mean, they have Austin Reeves, LeBron, and AD. I mean, you match that up with the OG-less and Randle-less Knicks team. I mean, there's just a huge talent deficit there.
Then that's why you're here, Combo, because you just reminded me. Yes, they were a deficit. I mean, when you're watching like on your phone when you're traveling, or where was I? I was on my phone watching it. Just you forget about like, oh wait, OG is not out there. So you're right. If they had OG and Randle, they probably win that game, right? I mean, they were competing with them, and it was going back and forth. The Lakers ultimately strangled them at the end and took control. But you're right. They needed the guy like OG. But then again, like if you traded Randle anyway, which I kind of thought there were maybe whispers about this. You don't necessarily need to get like one player back that's the same kind of Randle ability. You could get a couple guys that fill in a couple things that they need and let OG be that 4 and give them what they need there. So I don't. So I guess let's talk about the Knicks for a second. They're not title contenders right now, right? When they're healthy.
No. I mean, it's close, though. It's getting closer. Incremental movements towards that, like OG trade was an incremental movement towards title contention. I don't think they're quite there yet.
Okay. So I agree with you. And by the way, I'm worried that Brunson's going to be reduced to like a puddle of sweat on the floor by the end of the year. I looked it up. He covered more ground in tracking data than almost anybody in the league. There might be 5 or 6 players ahead of him. Just the amount of movement he needs to do and to create and be there and bail them out is incredible. He seems like he's durable and can do that, but right. We've seen that happen with like Harden before, and you have to be worried about what's going to happen in the playoffs, and you will see them take it out of his hands and take their chances with hitting Randle in space and letting him work, because he might fall into that whole tough mid-range shot game again, and that's going to kill them in the playoffs. So that's why I've always kind of felt like Randle's the guy that they could upgrade. And they don't need to upgrade with the other one guy. They could get a couple guys that could kind of fill in there, let OG slide in that spot more. Now, the other thing is do we know anything about whether Robinson's going to come back this year?
I don't think he is.
Okay. So that's too bad.
Is it? I mean, Ihart's been great.
He is. He's been great. And he should start when Robinson comes back, without question. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's too bad in the sense that we don't want to see anybody injured and not playing. But, I mean, they've been A-OK without Mitchell.
Yeah. I think Mitchell will be great coming off the bench for them, and that, give him 20 minutes and wreak havoc that entire time. So that would work for them if they could get it. But I also like, though, the rest of their roster. You know what? Why am I blanking now? Jericho Sims. I really like Jericho Sims. I think him in the backup role too is as well. Did he actually start against the Lakers? Am I losing my mind?
I don't remember that part. I would say the thing about Jericho Sims is like, has he learned the game yet? Has he learned the game of basketball yet? Like he's a crazy athlete.
Yeah, he got off the ground. I'm sorry, Hartenstein started, and Sims got 15 minutes. But yeah, that was right. But you know what? Heat check is out there. Oh, it's great to see Stefan. Maybe Stefan, you want to come on the show? I'll invite you on if you want to come on. I'll send you the link in an email. If you don't know Heat Check, you got to check out his YouTube channel. He's got the best breakdowns. He's got as good of breakdowns as I have, I guess, right? But we've collabed together. We haven't done it in a while. We should probably do that. But Stefan, let me know in the comments if you want to jump in. Oh, I didn't. Do they know your first name? I think they know. Yeah, they know your first name. Let me know, Stefan, if you want to come on. We'll bring you in. Anyway, so I think that would be an issue that they want to upgrade. Another big would be nice for them. And then Stephen says a backup point guard is also key. So what do you think about that backup point guard?
I mean, Brogdon, I've been saying that for a while, that'd be a great fit there.
I just saw that pop up, right? I suppose, is Brogdon on the block? Because it seems like you'd hear every day different trade scenarios with him.
I mean, he's automatically in the block for what stage of his career he's in and where the Portland Trailblazers are.
Yeah, but like again, it's been a little bit quiet in a way, right? It seems like it's been quiet. Although I did see that one rumor. Okay, Seven's not. He's outside. All right. Hey, listen. Phones work outside, but no worries. We'll we'll have to get a collab going soon. We'll talk. Yeah. So that's the interesting question about the Knicks. Is where are they? Is this a tantalizing tease? Did they have a strength of schedule thing that let them get on a nice win streak? This happened a few years ago when Randle had gotten there, and they had the same winning streak right around this time when they were kind of very mediocre to bad, and it catapulted them, and then they got into the playoffs at a decent seed, and then Randle did his mid-range stuff that was troubling, and they ultimately got knocked out in the first round. Do you remember that? That was 3 years ago now?
Yeah, that was a while back. I mean, last year they had a pretty good playoff run. They beat the Cavs. I mean, It was solid. They want to obviously add on that, but I think they're at even a better position heading towards the All-Star break than they were last year. So we'll see.
I agree. I mean, listen, Brunson is Brunson, man. He is him. He should be in the MVP conversation. Well, let's talk about this for a second. Why don't the Knicks do better on YouTube? I've done, I actually looked through it because the video I did, isn't doing amazing. It was coming off of an incredible 40-point performance, a 9-game winning streak. I'm starting to think that maybe the Knicks fan base, while rabid, might not be as big as we think it is on social media.
I think it's huge. I also think there's huge platforms that maybe already have the attention of the Knicks fan base. I actually work closely with one Knicks Fan TV, so that might be part of it. They kind of have the YouTube channels that they want to.
So you're saying they don't like me, is what you're saying? YouTube, Knicks TV?
Knicks Fan TV. So I actually work with a YouTube channel that's under Knicks Fan TV called the NBA Report. You were actually on recently on my podcast. So I think that could be part of it. Knicks fans go to certain places,
Okay, because I'm looking at the view counts for this Knicks Fan TV. This would indicate to me that this is there's not a huge audience. You know what I'm saying? At least at my level, other teams do a lot better traditionally.
What I'm saying is it's a concentrated fan base where Knicks fans go to watch Knicks content.
Okay, but you understand what I'm saying?
What are you saying?
Well, okay, if it's concentrated and they go to certain spots, Knicks Fan TV, and listen, shout out to Knicks Fan TV. If you look at the view counts of their videos, 6,000, 12,000, 6,000, 12,000, 8,000, 6,000. I mean, that's not big. That's not a lot. Is it a lot? I don't think it's a lot. So where I would think that there are if someone's captured the Knicks eyeballs, they should be getting 300, 400,000 views of videos, I would think. And I looked through my videos. It's none of them have done that great over the years. I looked up on YouTube Jalen Brunson 40 Knicks. And there was only one video that got decent views over the past week. It's weird. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're somewhere. So what you want to tell me is there's a lot of Knicks fans. They're really rabid. They're somewhere out there, but there's somewhere someone's not capturing this audience in a huge way.
I don't know.
So if you are a Knicks fan out there, go watch the video. Watch it twice. I don't know. Please do me a favor. Help me out there. I shared it in my community tab, which I don't normally do, just to remind people the next day it was still there. So, and by the way, the reason why more people should watch who aren't even Knicks fans is because Brunson is that good. So I'm going to do a video soon. Actually, should I tell everybody? I don't want anyone to steal my idea, but whatever. I'm going to do a video, and Brunson's going to be featured in a very surprising way in a method of, we talked about, I'll just tell you, post-ups. Because I've said this before, at least on this show, he's the best post-up player in the league. I think he's, by far, as far as scoring in the post, the best post-up player in the league.
I mean, Jokic, Luka.
Yeah, I think he's better than them. Now, the reason why I think it's more interesting is that he turns drives that are cut off into post-ups.
The thing is, though, is Jokic in the playoffs, I'm taking as a post player over Brunson in the playoffs, right? I mean,
I don't know.
In terms
he's so tricky down there.
In terms of just pure post. I mean, I think they're both in the MVP conversation. So kudos to both of them. I'm just talking about like straight post. I mean, Jokic is tough.
I mean, I guess what you could say is skill-wise and size-wise, he's going to get that shot off easier, right? And he's going to be able to make those little floaters and little turnarounds because he's so big. So, yeah. But when you're talking about like pound for pound shiftiness, footwork, craftiness, the whole thing, no one's doing it like him. No one's doing one-footed step-throughs like him, and then the shot fakes and the pivots.
You're saying he's a more you're saying he's a more skillful post-up player than anybody in the league.
Yeah, I think so. Sense. And then also you combine that with his explosion. He is so much quicker than like Jokic. I mean, I wish he was taller, but he's so much quicker than Jokic. He's so much quicker than Doncic. Who else is in that? Embiid might be as quick as he is, but he's now out. And what did you make, by the way, of the Embiid stuff? Where the leading news reporters who are, tend to be not under the thumb, but if they want to continue getting access, they kind of need to listen to what the information they're getting and have to report it that way. So they're reporting it as a procedure with a meniscus dislocation. What did you make of all of that language?
I mean, it sounds like a meniscus surgery.
That's what it is, but they won't say it, and they won't even because anybody who knows.
They said it's meniscus and they said it's surgical. What do you mean?
No, well, Woj and I think Shams as well are kind of weirdly reporting this as a meniscus dislocation, I think was the term, and a procedure that he's undergoing. You didn't see these tweets?
Yeah, but a procedure means surgery.
I know, but why won't they say it? It's very strange. They always say surgery. And by the way,
read the tweets to me. I mean.
I mean, I could try to find it real quick because let's see here. Is it going to come up quick? By the way, the one-footed step-through argument, like every time I think we inch forward about explaining to people why it's legal, we go 5 steps back.
I've had meniscus surgery. Obviously, every surgery is different and every knee is different.
Did you have a surgery repaired or
no?
Taken out?
So if I have had 2 ACL surgeries, and in between those, I had a meniscus surgery, and you're out 6 to 8 weeks.
Did they repair it or they remove it?
They shaved it. They did not remove it. They shaved it down a little bit. Yeah.
Right, because remember, they used to just remove it, and that would actually get you on the court faster, but you lose several years at the end of your career because of that. Now they just repair it, which is really great, and it takes a little bit longer to get back, but then you don't lose the years in the end of your career. But here's what Woj should have reported on one of the tweets I see. Full ESPN story on Joel Embiid's looming meniscus procedure. Here goes. Will undergo a procedure this week to repair a left meniscus injury. Now, I think Shams might be the one who had it as a meniscus. Let me see if I can find that one. Meniscus dislocation.
That sounds. I never even heard of that.
I know, because it's like the most ridiculous kind of way of. Let's see here. Does it say here?
That don't sound good.
Yeah, he's out for a couple months. Oh, here it is. Sources say, this is what Shams reported. Actually, he said corrective procedure in the first part, but then later on in the next sentence he goes, Embiid's surgery. So they did that. He said surgery will address a displaced flap of the meniscus. Again, that's not displaced. That's a torn meniscus. Anyway, it's very strange. I thought, I think Brian Sutter, friend of the breakdown, also expressed some very strange, or concern about how they were reporting this. Part of it made me feel like they just kind of wanted to make it seem like maybe it's not as serious as it was, and maybe they're going to try and get him back early. But I think we already saw that he shouldn't have come back in that game against. He missed the Denver game. There's all that pressure, and then he came back, and then he looked terrible against.
Somebody landed on him, though. That has nothing to do with the pre-existing injury.
Yeah, he looked terrible before that. He should not have played.
That's
you know what I mean? He really was laboring, and I think that he was feeling the weight of the 65 games to play MVP.
Two things could be true. I mean, that he shouldn't have been playing, but it doesn't directly correlate with his previous injury either.
No, absolutely right. That's correct. Yeah. And he could have not injured it anymore. He could have just hurt a lot when the guy fell on him for sure, but didn't make it worse. But the bottom line is, and then everyone wants to criticize the 65-game minimum for why you should have to play that to win the MVP. Although that said, I don't mind having a minimum, right? You should have some guidelines, but then here's what happens is that these guys will feel this undue pressure to play through injuries, right, to get to that threshold. So that said, Embiid has won it. I don't know exactly why, right? He won the MVP.
Embiid, yeah, last year.
Yeah, last year. So it's like that's done. You don't need to do it again, do you? I feel like you can prove yourself and know and then be ready for the playoffs. So that was a mistake. I don't know, why they let him do it. Now that said, again, did he tear the meniscus in that last game, and that's why? Probably not. It probably was just bad the whole time. So maybe it doesn't matter at that point. But either way, I don't know. Let's see. It's February 5th. What's the date? February 5th. So let's just say he's out for 2 months.
To change the subject slightly, I was thinking about like Embiid, and there was like Embiid Knicks stuff before the season. Is there a star player in the NBA who doesn't have like trade buzz or him leaving the team buzz around them?
Yeah.
Is there a single player
Who doesn't have trade buzz like LeBron does right now?
at any point? Yeah.
Oh, at any point in their career?
No, even like in the past year, let's say.
Like Luka.
Lakers. I hear Lakers. I hear like him landing in the Lakers eventually.
Oh, well, okay. We have to then say that the hashtag future Laker doesn't count, right? Because everybody will BS
Well,
about that.
that's what I'm saying. There's like no play. Like you were hearing, Giannis is a little upset, and obviously he was because the coach changed. But there's not like Giannis used to be the guy that you think like, okay, he's definitely gonna. And he's even gotten like buzz about leaving. I don't know if you want to call it trade buzz, but just star player leaving team buzz.
I never felt Giannis as like that he was like completely full in on Milwaukee. I don't know, like
Okay.
maybe, but
That's my point. I guess you could say that about any player now, right?
It's like Steph. Steph is the guy that you're talking about, basically. Who
Charlotte.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but not this year. Oh, actually, did that come up this year? Maybe. Yeah.
And it's interesting. The only way they could blow it up is to trade Steph. There's they obviously probably don't want to, and they won't, and he'll retire Warriors. But you can't blow it up by like trading Clay and Draymond or anybody else.
Well, I mean, if you threw a first or two in there, you could get rid of. Sorry, you could trade those guys. But
Was the get rid of on purpose, or that was a?
I meant to say trade, of course. These guys are great players, and they deserve all the respect that they have earned over all those years. But
PC Nick.
But that is the problem with it's a business, right? Like the Celtics learned this the hard way when they had McHale and they had Parrish and they had Bird. They could have traded those guys and continued to go and have an elite run, but at some point someone decided, well, we can't trade them, and then it saddled them. Now that said, had Len Bias not died, then I think that they still would have been able to continue a lot of that through into the 90s, before they got terrible. But that's the nature of the game as well. The ebbs and flows. You're going to have good teams and you're going to have bad teams, and it's going to take, it could take a while to get out of that. Watch. Someone actually asked an interesting question on Twitter. I forgot who about the difference between the Magic and the Pistons, both of whom kind of began their rebuild at the same time, and look how well it's worked out for the Magic and not for the Pistons. However, there was an interesting caveat that I saw people mention that was very smart. Do you know what that was? Why the Magic were able to rebuild quicker?
Why?
Well, because they started that rebuild by being able to trade players like Vucevic and Aaron Gordon. So that brought back a lot of riches, where I don't think that the Pistons had that same situation to then rebuild like that.
Interesting.
Now that said, they had drafted high and they've gotten players and they've kind of mismanaged and they haven't had great coaching, and they might still not have great coaching. So they keep striking out on that end, and that's a big part of it, wouldn't you say?
Most definitely. Totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why certain coaches can come in right away and unlock things that the teams, weren't doing or couldn't do. It doesn't necessarily have to even be X's and O's.
I feel like there's only a few coaches that are difference makers, and I would say you could this is a great question for you, but you would be able to answer this profoundly, I would say. Spo, Nick Nurse, Ty Lue. I mean, those are the guys that are really game changers. Steve Kerr, it's not going well now.
Yeah, it's so weird because the Warriors, they've been able to hurt the really good teams in those games, and they had Denver down by a big number, and they had Lakers down. I'm forgetting. Sorry, on the road, my brain is much, but they've had a number of games this year where they've been able to really, pound those teams for a while in those games, which means something to me. I don't know what it means, but what it means is Clay needs to go to the bench badly and needs to play 20 minutes a game. Like, that will really help them.
There's two things that are working in the Warriors' favor right now. Wiggins is playing better, and Kuminga is taking like an instant leap lately.
Yeah. Kuminga still does the the interesting stuff, but that becomes less of an effect when he's really scoring the way he is and putting pressure on the defense the way he does.
The second best player right now, right? Second best player right now.
Yeah,
For now,
yeah. And so that's interesting. So if he comes along and Wiggins gets better, they're talking about trading Wiggins, but maybe they won't now if he's kind of got himself back into shape and whatever.
Or maybe they will now.
Right, maybe his value is higher. But it's interesting because you could go like Wiggins, Kuminga, Curry, I guess Clay, and then Draymond go, small ball, and you could probably get a lot out of that as well. But they need to do something.
Give me that 5 again.
Kuminga, Wiggins together in the front court alongside Draymond, and then Curry, Clay.
Oh my God! I mean, the Minnesota and Lakers would destroy them. No.
Well, we saw some really good defense by Draymond on AD. He seemed to be somewhat effective, even though he's much smaller. So there's something there. Something there indicated to me when I was watching that they could quote unquote get away with that. Then I also saw that Clay was guarding LeBron a little bit, and then they can always put Wiggins on LeBron. So they had some guys that could guard LeBron as well. So it felt okay to me. It felt okay to me, believe me or not.
Playoff LeBron with Clay guarding him. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that for Clay.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron is LeBron, but it's also, the 39-year-old LeBron. Or is it 39? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
38, 39?
Yeah.
LeBron isn't LeBron. He's putting up some numbers, but he's not the same guy.
He's not the same guy, but when I see D'Lo bounce it off the floor to him and how effortlessly he threw that down, he looked like a great athlete.
When LeBron has got his full speed and off the one leg, he really can still get up pretty high. But when he's not in that situation, Did
you see the clip of him sliding his feet versus Brunson too? Like he got some lateral movement still.
All right, so you think that he's just saving all that for the playoffs?
Oh, he's going to look different in the playoffs, and he's even better than last year in the regular season right now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we shall see. I will have an open mind on that as well. But I think that the Warriors could still hurt them. That's the thing. The Warriors can hurt any of the teams in the West, but that doesn't mean they're going to beat anybody of the teams in the West in a 7-game series.
Like the Kings right now, it's weird to say like the Warriors like the Kings when it's really the opposite, right? The Kings are influenced like the Warriors. I mean, when they're hitting on all cylinders, it takes a lot of your defensive bandwidth, right? Like more than even like the isocentric teams like like the Celtics or guys that just get their best players the ball and they dance. It's like when you got that player movement, ball movement, it takes a lot of your bandwidth. Nice artwork in the back.
Thank you. Yeah, I just figured I would get a little bit more. Well, I've got this like Beatles cover lighting on my face. Do you know the Beatles cover I'm talking about?
No, that's
there's a band called the Beatles.
Of course. I mean, it's before my time. Obviously, it's a legendary band, and I should know that, but I don't.
It's the I think the album is called The Beatles, and it's you see basically half their faces in shadow, and the other half is in light. But at any rate,
is it like how the Mona Lisa is like half smiling, half not, or is that different?
They have a similar expression to the Mona Lisa, by the way, in that. So that's something. But no, it's more like it's more dramatic. Like literally, only half their faces are seen. Basically, the other half are very dark.
Do you think it was influenced by Mona Lisa, and that was a prophetical moment by Combo? Is prophetical a word?
No, but I'll allow it. Okay. Prophetical would not be the word, but it would be. The word is
prophetization.
No, it's oh God. You know what? I often wonder if having COVID a couple times within a few months has done this to my brain where I don't have it. But that said, I will do crosswords, and they have a crossword now. The new thing on the crosswords is it's timed. So me and the wife will compete, about who can do it faster, and I can still do it faster. So I have the recall there, but the word I'm looking for is someone's going to tell us with the Beatles. Thank you. Wow. I used to know every lyric and every Beatles album in order for every track, and I don't know if I could do that anymore.
Is somebody in the comments section going to give us the word for prophetical?
Prescient. Thank you.
Wow.
Prescient. Prescient. Prescient, which is like you could see in the future and you're predicting properly. I use the term nostrabalus, by the way.
Prescient,
I like that one.
Could use prescient in what is that for Manscaped? Presciabolent? What'd you say?
Yeah, sure. Whatever it takes. I used to teach English. Do you know that in high school?
Okay, so please use prescient for me in 3 sentences. Let's see if you're quicker than ChatGPT.
In 3 sentences, I'll just say like combo predicting that LeBron will be traded by the end of the year is very prescient.
Really?
Which
Is
would
that
yeah,
is it?
but it's not because it won't happen. But I'm just using an example. But
Okay.
I used to teach. So here's what I used to do. Ready? I used to teach high school English, and in a really big inner city high school, where the level of English mastery wasn't that high, comparatively, ninth grade, 11th grade, and so I had to figure out how to catch these kids up. So one thing I did was, in fact, I did this in the very beginning. You might like this. I used to have everybody sit in a circle. Which, by the way, I still have to apologize to the next door neighbor of mine in the bungalows. I used to teach this, where it was so loud to move the chairs back where they were because I had to borrow a classroom for the 7th and 8th periods. So, but we move them in a circle because I liked it better because you couldn't hide in the back if you're in a circle. I could sort of be in the middle. I could see everybody. They can see me. You know what I mean? And I wrote on these. So in the very beginning of the semester, the class would change. People would be adding, dropping the whole time for the first week. You couldn't get anything done because if you started teaching right away, then I would say 30% of your class would be different by the end of the week. Right? That's in the public school. So what we would do is the name game, where we're all sitting like in a circle, and I would say my name, and then I would say my name, and then you're next. You say my name and your name, and the next person would say my name, your name, and their name, and then it goes on and on all the way through, right?
That's a memory game, right?
Memory game, name game, whatever. So you know what I
Okay.
mean. So basically, the guy at the very end gets screwed because they have to know everyone, right? And everyone before that's easier. But then you go the other way, and then they get to be first, and then they don't have to, they only have to know the first name, which is theirs. Got it? Are you with me?
I am with you.
So what this is doing is it teaches you, you're learning how to learn because it's repetition, it's listening actively, it's sort of memorization and remembering. I used to write down in my book my prediction for the grade that the student was going to get based on their performance in the name game that first week. And I was almost always right because you could tell right from that how they processed and what they, you know what I mean. It's like, now that said, is it fate? Is it fate? Is it like does everyone have self-determination? Can they get better? Yes, they can, but invariably I would be very prescient with my predictions of what their grade was going to be.
Are you familiar with Naval Ravikant?
No.
He's a philosopher, angel investor, and he talks about how like Bruce Lee would take different disciplines in terms of he was a martial artist, but he was also a philosopher. And I feel like that's the same with you. Like your experience with the English language and coaching and filmmaking all comes together for your YouTube channel, which makes things a little bit different,
Yeah. Well, I would term myself a searcher. And whenever I encounter fellow searchers or seekers or travelers, we're the ones who are always looking for ways to improve or to change or to alter or figure out better ways, better methods. And it's definitely a personality thing. And I'll encounter coaches who do not have this, who are not like that, and will bristle against new stuff.
So the reason humans are like that, and some don't think that way, or maybe it's in human nature not to think that way, even though it is because we're shooting up people to space. But it's like it's time efficient not to be that way, right? Like people just go back to their old habits because it just saves time for them.
That's an interesting take for sure. That's definitely part of it. I look at it like on Twitter we shared a Brunson amazing step through off of 1 foot, right? He's pivoting on the right foot, then he lifts the right foot to shoot it, right? Which for a long time was taught not to do because they thought it was a travel. And when I keep trying to insist to people, we had somebody out there who was on a bender for a day who just wouldn't acknowledge, no matter what we told them, no matter how many rules we showed. Part of it is that I'm sure at some point in their youth they were told by someone they trusted and believed in that it was a travel. And when new information comes in that goes against that, they can't accept it. No matter what. And it's an interesting phenomenon that we see in politics as well, where you get an intractable situation where they're definitely not searchers, they're not seekers, they're not looking for new information, right? But they can't handle it, even though the evidence is right in front of them. And that's a really interesting thing that we see a lot of across the board now, especially in the U.S. And we got to figure out a better method to break through that because a lot of times it's belligerent. They're very hostile in their reaction, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Let me walk him through the rules so they understand it. And every once in a while we get through, and the guy's like, oh, okay, I get it, thank you. But almost never does that happen. They just usually just disappear, and they just move away. They don't ever develop. They don't ever progress.
The more we know, the more we realize we don't know.
Yeah. Well, imagine if you thought, for the longest time that we are the center of the universe. That was what everybody said. And then one day someone came along and said, you know what? It's the sun is the center of our solar system, whatever.
Oh
right?
yeah, I mean, if we saw what people were doing 500 years ago, and we just took like a time machine, we would think it's absolutely crazy. The interesting thing is, 500 years from today,
Yeah.
what's going to seem absolutely crazy at that time?
Absolutely. Well, we have a super chat. Let's put up this on the screen. Thank you so much, Andrew P, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Are the New York Knicks better without Randle's ball stopping and no D? Okay.
Andrew P.
Yes, up until this year and up until recently. And I got a couple of things I want to say. Are you ready for this? Because this gets into psychology as well. Randle is an intriguing, polarizing player because at any minute you don't know which one you're going to get. The one that's dominant on offense, who is a bucket no matter whenever he wants one, and will then drag three players to him and make a nice pass for a nice open shot for a teammate. Or is he the ball-stopping guy that takes terrible mid-range shots and just forces things up? Is he a guy who is happy and interacting with his teammates in a really positive way and they're having the best time? Or is he the guy that's sulking and upset and whatever? He just switches back and forth. And in fact, here's an interesting hot take, because I don't watch the Knicks 100% of the time, but I feel like I've noticed this year and more recently this personality trait identified by his teammates and them going out of their way to try and keep him happier. Like, almost like screwing around with him as much as they can, and giving him hugs and really just giving him the love that will keep him in that mind space of positivity. And I don't know if it's conscious. I have no idea if that's whatever, but I'm like sort of feeding off of that energy in a weird way, and that's what it feels like to me. Do you feel that way? Does that resonate with you at all? Probably watching even more Knicks than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think you take on the identity of the team's best player. That's part of the reason why the Raptors were such an excellent two-way team and so confident when Kawhi was there, right? Like, it's almost, even though Kawhi doesn't talk, it felt like they embodied what Kawhi was in a lot of ways, right? Okay. And I feel like, I think you're right when it comes to Randle, but, Brunson brings in that, like, Nova culture, and now he got everybody in Nova. It's a family affair. His dad's on the sideline. Tibbs knew him since he was a little kid, and I think everything trickles down from Brunson, and there is just better culture there now. And so Randle's more under the umbrella of Brunson's culture instead of Randle being the top guy of the culture.
Yeah, it's funny. I ran into Brunson, to the father, at some point. When he was coaching. I want to say maybe with Tibbs in Minnesota. Am I completely making that up? I think that Mr. Brunson.
Okay, that could make some sense.
Rick Brunson, sorry. And I remember Rick Brunson as a player, right, in the NBA. And I remember asking him, because here's the thing: we've seen that clip of him working with Jalen, right, as a 12-year-old or whatever, and he seems like a real hard ass, right? And he's just yelling at him and making him go up and back and up and back, and it's really cool to see him actually then make that kind of pull up from the elbow, just like he did then. And you would wonder, okay, because Brunson seems like the kind of guy who is funny and really light and a great teammate and knows exactly, isn't a hard ass like that, right? I mean, he's tough, and you better not, get in his face. But he seems to have that great balance. And you'd almost think that, like what we saw with Rick, how he's raising him and coaching him then, maybe he was a complete hard ass. But, I remember running into him. I think it was Minnesota, if I'm not crazy. Can someone fact check that with me and make sure that Rick Brunson was an assistant in Minnesota? And I walked up to him and I said, do the players that you're coaching now know how mean you were? And I kind of did it to see what his reaction would be, and he smiled and really thought that was was funny and reacted in a way that was assured me that Rick Brunson, for how tough he was and how mean he appeared, also was funny and got it and had a good sense of humor about all of that, right? So that tells me that Jalen has inherited that from him as well. Corliss Williamson was the same way. Corliss Williamson on the court as a player, I don't know if you remember, was the meanest SOB. You wouldn't want to get anywhere near that guy. And you know what? He's the nicest guy in the world as a coach now. And we joke about that too with him. So that's part of it. So in my mind, Jalen could identify that. He's got his college teammates with him as well. They could all have said, you know what? We realize that when Julius walks in the door and he's really kind of upset or down or whatever, he doesn't play well. So let's put it on ourselves to keep him up and make sure that we keep him happy in a great mindset and mind space, so that he'll perform even better, and then he'll probably deepen their relationship and all that stuff. So that might be the key. That might be the way to avoid having these funks where Randle will go into these weird things where he just ends up being a player that hurts the Knicks. And I even showed in the video that I posted on the Knicks the other day, they're getting him to play defense off ball. Like they're getting him to rotate and they're getting to be there early on help. These are things that I don't remember seeing from Randle before. And as a guy who's got a big body like that, who can affect the lane, it's important that you can get him to do that. So they might have cleaned a lot of that stuff up. And you know what? Maybe I just talked myself into, getting rid of the idea of even trading him away.
Who, Randle? I mean,
yeah.
You know what it is when you got OG, you kind of you say got rid of, and then you kind of apologized after. But that's basically what they did with RJ. They got rid of him.
Just keep rubbing it in.
Yeah. But they went in a direction like, okay, we're not even really fishing for another superstar. We're building with Brunson and Randle as our pillars because OG is such a great fit next to those guys. Even though he might not be a tremendously better basketball player than RJ, he just fits so well next to Randle and Brunson, and I think that's what they're moving forward with. So, yeah, I don't think they plan on moving off either of them,
No, and they might not even really have to. Okay, so with that said, if they can get rid of all that Randle stuff where he goes into those funks and he's much more consistent, and then you got Brunson and you got OG and you got everybody else following in line and Hartenstein doing his thing, who's going to beat them in the playoffs in that situation?
Say that all over again.
So you get everything perfect, right? And by the way, I caught Tibbs laughing, not smiling, laughing during a game the other day. I was going through all the footage. That never happens, okay? So imagine if you get everybody kind of in line. And by the way, maybe the Villanova dudes are figuring out ways to unlock Thibodeau, because his sour demeanor puts a cloud too over the team a lot of the time when there's never even a smile. They come in after going on a run and he's not even like, hey guys, let's keep doing this. It's like,
the thing with Tibbs was just like, defensively, obviously always been a solid coach, but like on offense, it's almost like, okay, we're going to play defense and then Randle and Brunson, you do your thing. But I think like with iHeart playing and then OG fitting in so well, the offense has just looked so much better.
Right, and he used to do a lot more like triangle stuff, and it's not really there now. It's more just sort of playing through Brunson, and that works. But again, that's why you need to have a secondary scorer like a Randle out there and OG to be able to cut and get open. You need talent if you're going to do that, and they have it. They just got to make sure that they're all healthy. So Sonny makes an interesting point about I did that. How do I get? Here we go. Hi, Karen. I did that video on the Raptors Lakers where Darko went nuts after the game and got fined and all that stuff. And, but he was wondering, Sonny's asking why there's so much hate on the Lakers Toronto foul video. I'm already almost forgetting what the hate was, but and it didn't do that great either, even though usually videos like that do really well when a coach comes out and says something terrible or inflammatory, and then I can do a response. So again, that was interesting as well. But I think the ref videos I've been doing recently tend to try and rationally explain how the refs got to their conclusion. And most of the time, those refs are right because they're that good. That's why they're in the NBA. And I feel like there's such a hate towards the refs. And by the way, I get it. We've now gotten to the situation where the guy is pulling up off the one, and everyone wants to say he's just leaning in. He's not really doing a basketball play to try to hunt for fouls, and that's now a big negative thing. When players getting contact has been a thing for decades and decades, right? That's the thing that we teach and you learn, and it's like, great, get to the free throw line. That's an important thing. But something's turned from the audience perspective, right? Where they feel like that's a bad thing, and then B, I think that they're kind of fundamentally misreading some of these plays, and what they see as Patrick Beverley like throwing himself into Steph is really Steph moving into Patrick Beverley, and Beverley is pulling up on the one instead of the two. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Would you like to add to that?
I mean, I always defer to you when it comes to honestly, like with the travel stuff and the foul stuff, it's like, I don't even know what's going on anymore, because sometimes you could just like run through the lane like a running back, and sometimes they'll call the most ridiculous travel that's not a travel. But also with the foul stuff, I don't get it either, because they tried to take away some of that stuff 2 years ago, and now it's like it's back.
I know. When you say take away, like they allowed them to play more physically.
Right. Well,
I don't know
100%.
why we went away from that.
They,
That was
they were
terrific.
doing something with like the Harden Trey stuff. You know, they were calling it like the Harden Trey rule, where like you couldn't stop on a dime and somebody behind you and get the foul anymore. You know.
Or I would even give that to Trey Young doing that too.
No, that's what I said. Trey and Harden.
Oh, okay, Trey and Harden.
Yeah.
So that to me is different. Although they were thinking about fouls that year, so that's part of it. But certainly allowing more contact on those drives is a little bit different than those plays. And they basically it was like playoff rules, right? They were playing it like it was the playoffs, and they should do that for the regular season. I don't know why they went away from that because it was definitely a difference than compared to now.
It's hard to officiate players like Pat Bev because sometimes they set the tone early in the game, and you can't just foul them out.
Right, but you're talking about Pat Bever's defense. I was even referencing his offensive play too, because it's all part of that. Now Brunson did the same move where he pulled up early on.
He does that a lot.
And I have it. I don't know if I can show it, but I have it. And they didn't give it to him. He didn't get the call.
He's actually really good at drawing fouls without making it look like so floppy. You know.
Yeah, and by the way, but it's all similar concepts of when you're gathering early before the defense is ready, and then and then there's contact. Like when Embiid did it, and that was another video I did, and then Patrick Beverley did it. Everyone wanted to say it was not a basketball play, but if you were to Photoshop out the defender, all you would see was a guy drive to the basket, gather on the 1 foot, and jump off that foot at the same time they're gathering, and then shoot a jump shot. How is that not a basketball play? It looks just like a basketball play. Like it's so strange to me, like that they perceive it that way, and that's why I'm out there trying to help. And people, again, speaking of that whole like information that people don't want to accept when they have their mind made up, no manner of rational evidence or discussion about it seems to have any effect, which makes me wonder why am I even doing it anymore. But if I can reach one person, it's worth it, right? But that it's been a fascinating thing, and then it goes back into the notion of if the refs make a mistake, which happens. The fans think that they deserve abuse, and that's the other problem that I have a problem with. It's nobody deserves abuse. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody misreads something every now and then, especially when you're a referee in an NBA game. They don't do it a lot, but when it happens, it's no cause to be screaming. Now, by the way, my buddy, I went to my best friend's kids game. JV game the other day. And there's about 10 or 20 people in the gym, and my buddy, who's the father of the kid out there, was yelling, and everyone in the gym is going to hear it when he's yelling about the refs, and I was kind of cringing the whole time. But afterwards, I thanked the refs. I walked up to them and said, thank you so much for doing this for us. He said, hey, call your friend over. And my friend comes over, and he sits there for 10 minutes before the varsity game starts and explained to him exactly what the issues were with the calls and why he didn't call them, and it was awesome. And don't think the referees don't hear it. They hear all of that, right? And he was like, and he remembered exactly the plays that he was yelling at profusely. And I got to tell you, it's a rare case where the referee didn't have an ego enough where he was willing to explain it and talk to him in a rational way. It was wonderful, and hopefully my friend took that to heart as well. But anyway, they're human people, human beings.
They're human beings, and in New York, the refs talk trash back.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Well, let's finish up here. We can talk about the Bucks for a few minutes, and then I got to get out of here. The Bucks. I thought it might have taken longer for Doc to reveal himself than 4 games. It actually only took like 2 games, right? But we're kind of seeing. And listen, it's not fair at all to criticize Doc for at least another month, right? He just got there. What's he really doing? Whatever. So, but it is a meme or it is a whatever to kind of say Doc.
You mean
whatever.
You're talking about the coach of the Eastern Conference All-Star team?
Right. The guy who's going to jump in. Now, what do you think about that? I guess he's got to do it, right? It certainly can't be Adrian Griffin.
Give it to Tibbs. Give it to Tibbs.
Yeah, I have. You know what? I kind of agree with that. Tibbs is second place. No. Yeah. Tibbs, the Knicks are second place. I kind of feel like it would have been really amazing for Doc to do that, but I have a feeling that knowing Tibbs would have been like, I don't want to do it. Don't give it to me. I want to go on a vacation.
I know Tibbs, I don't know Tibbs, but just from the outside looking in, from what I understand, from what I hear about him, he probably wants to work on Knicks stuff during that time.
Yeah. I feel like having to coach the All-Stars is a chore. Because it's not really doing much, and it's probably just a lot of events, and it's really hassly, especially when you get the other coaches all get a nice vacation for a while. I think that they probably all would prefer that.
I feel like the NBA could do. This is an opportunity to do something creative, like bring in an old coach. I don't know, something different, like somebody that you want to see do well. I don't know. Like I feel like you could think of something in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear you.
It's an opportunity. It's the All-Star game. It's fun,
Yeah, absolutely. And then last night the Bucks lost a big lead in the fourth quarter with like 11 minutes to go. They had a 12, 14-point lead, and they just fell apart against the Jazz of all teams. It's not a good look. And by the way, I did do a quick check. I didn't get a chance to watch the game, so I am talking out of my rear end. But I did look at the popcornmachine.net game flow. And when you look at the big run the Jazz made, Doc did not make one sub for 8 or 9 or 10 minutes.
They should bring in Larry Bird
as a coach.
Yeah, it's in Indiana. He is Indiana.
What? For the Bucks?
No, for the Eastern Conference All-Star team.
Oh, you're still on the All-Star game. I'm talking about the Bucks game in Jazz.
Okay,
all right, you're talking about bring in Larry Bird to coach. That would be. By the way, if there was a player who did, or if there was a person who didn't want to coach the All-Star game more than Tibbs, it would be Larry Bird. I can guarantee you that. He would definitely not want to do that.
Proceed.
Yeah. So anyway, the issue we've had with Doc is there's certain stuff in the clutch, and as the pressure mounts, and he tends to. I did a video. You should go watch it about all of his Game 7s that he's lost in the playoffs. And was there a pattern? And my concern with Doc is that he gets so upset with the refs and all the other stuff he can't control, and his body language and his communication. I honestly feel like it affects the players. The players glom onto that as well, and then they start getting all sort of out of sorts and disrupt their emotional equilibrium. And once that starts to happen, weird stuff will happen. The players will make plays they would never have normally made, terrible passes throwing away or losing the dribble, all sorts of stuff. You're like, what is going on here? And because that's a pattern across all of his his playoff losses like that, I just sort of made this argument that it's related to the coach as much as anything else, and so and that's a fixable thing. I think he could. I mean, at this age, I don't know if he's going to ever change, but I get frustrated watching that because it does. I know it has an effect on your team when you're like that too often.
Yeah.
Did you ever play for a coach like that?
Oh my God! Overseas, they're insane. It's like
so it's constant screaming, constant yelling, constant anger.
It's the greatest thing in the world when you score. It's the worst thing in the world when you don't score. And then it's like you're either complaining about what a player is doing or the ref every single play down the court. I've had some good coaches overseas. I'm saying there was a few of them like that. Like it was just total wild emotion, one way swing or the other.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of times it was a lot more results based than process based. Like great ball movement, open shot in the corner, he misses, coach is still angry.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
I got to tell you, I'm going to relate a story real quick. I was in, let's see, can I tell you the team? I was at Division II college installing my defense, the chase defense, where you play behind as a zone. And I got to tell you, for 2 straight days, I basically was like almost like the head coach. So he just let me run them through this thing.
I think I know what college it is because you were here.
Yes, you can see the video. But anyway, at the end of the first day, it was a Thursday night, and this is college, right? Thursday night's the night where everyone likes to go out, right? Yep. And it was early season. This is like.
In New York, it's every day, but I see what you're saying. The college night.
It's college Thursday night. Yeah. And it's getting close to like 8 o'clock at night at this point, right? And we've been going hard for 2 hours, and all defense, half court, full court, the whole thing, really hard. And I got to tell you, the coach blew the whistle to wrap everything up and let him go. And I swear to God, every single one of them said, "Coach, we want to keep doing this. Can we still have more time?" And we looked at each other, and I never, ever heard that before. And then we let him play for another 20 minutes doing it. Now, the reason I think that was happening was because the way I was coaching the defense was process-based, not results. So all we wanted was then the offense to shoot mid-range shots with a hand up. That's it. I didn't care if it went in or not. Didn't matter. And I would cheer when it happened, and I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll stop them again if it went in. Or if they shot a floater. All I wanted was a hand up, floaters and mid-range. And when they actually successfully closed out to get behind with this new footwork I taught them with the hockey stop, that again, cheering, it was exciting to see that do that and start chasing the offense and see the offense get all discombobulated that way. I think that if you were to use that method of communication and the rest of your defense, you'd probably find players who would want to play defense more. You know what I mean? And by the way, why don't they want to play defense? Because we teach them awful step sliding, choppy step closeouts, all of these things that limit your athletic ability. And I think deep down, the players know that they're limiting their athletic ability. When I run this defense, it's all running and explosion and movement and freedom to get to where you need to go the quickest way you can. And I think that when you tap into that, they recognize that and said, oh, we want to keep doing this. And I want to stop having to do the things that are old and aren't very effective, biomechanically, where my coach is going to yell at me angrily because of it. And even if I do play great defense and the guy scores, that happens, I still get yelled at. That futility would feed into that hatred of defense. I think we can change the entire defensive philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, process-based is always the way to go, especially if you have a philosophy as a coach that you feel like works and you see it work over time. Even in the short term, if things aren't going your way, over the course of a season in the playoffs, it's going to work in your favor.
I think, or they've just been doing it for so long, and it feels like it works, and so they're going to keep doing it. But there's always better ways to do it. Hence, some people who are seekers and on the journey are always looking for that. So, well, listen, Combo, I got to run. I got to go to my next thing.
Great show on the fly.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome show. Great to have it. We'll be back here again on Monday with everybody out here, so don't miss that. And don't miss, I'll have some. I'll be back on Tuesday evening. I'll get some videos back up on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So please get back there, watch them. Let me know what you want to see, and we will go from there. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown. We're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Combo?
Yes, sir.